No phones. It was just on your computer. I turn on my computer and I can read the news here. How the hell does that happen?
A brand is such a stupidly simple tool, but without it, you're pretty much lost.
For you young people out there, you don't know that there was a time the internet did not exist. It was a nothing. It was a concept.
So I asked him, I go, why do people build custom homes? He says, more often than not, they've always dreamed of having the home they built themselves. And I went, so you don't build homes, you build people's dreams.
Are you in the business of allowing me to design my own shoes? And now I can blow Nike out of the water.
Always, how do you and I make money for you? If you're making money, then you love me and our relationship continues.
And you boil it all down to this thing where it's just nothing more than an emotion. I say, Eric, how do you feel? What do you think? And it's like, you've got a brand. Whether you like it, whether you intended it or not, you've got a brand.
Everything you do in marketing is tied to pushing people's hot buttons because that's what gets them engaged in the messaging.
Size doesn't matter. It's how big a noise you make. Hey, welcome, my friends. You came back to Size Doesn't Matter, Entrepreneurial Marketing and Mayhem. I'm your host, Erico. And today we're actually on location at the famous Roc Sol Diner in beautiful downtown Sacramento, the corner of 10th and S. Good friend of mine, Matt Haynes, who's a local restaurant here, has offered up his beautiful facility. It's very psychedelic, very Yellow Submarine for those of you who know the Beatles. So we're having some fun here today. So since I'm going back in my past with people I know, I got two characters today, and I'm going to give you a little history, both how I came across them, but even a little more history that goes back to the Catholic school. No, sorry, this is not a religious podcast, but we're going to have some fun with our background a little bit. So back in the early 70s, there was two schools in Sacramento that are still here. There's Christian Brothers High School and Jesuit High School, both all male Catholic schools. Christian Brothers no longer, but those two have been for many, many years. Now, early in the 70s, the two schools got together and said, you know, we never play each other in football because we're in different divisions. How about if we get together and just have a fun game and bring the two schools together? And thus, in the early 70s, the Holy Bowl was launched right here in Sacramento. And it's been a big rivalry all these years. And you know what? I got two Jesuit guys sitting in front of me. I'm a CB guy, Christian Brothers. But today, I got home field advantage. I'm going to kick their rear end here. So we got Scott Hamilton right here and David Flanagan, two former Jesuit guys, coming at the CB guy, and I'm going to run them through the mud at Hughes Stadium, back like the old days. Right, guys?
Yeah, okay.
All right. As I point to my left, Scott, let's say who you are and what you're about.
So I'm Scott Hamilton. I own CSB Marketing here in Sacramento. We've had our agency for about 24 years now. I had a 35-year in broadcast ad sales and radio. I sing in a cool band. I got two kids, and I know my boy Eric is a good friend of mine. I'm happy to be here for you.
Woo. All right. You bring it, Scotty. Okay. And now to my right. I think it's my right. It's my right, Mr. David Flanagan.
So I've known you for quite a few many years, you know. And
I'm not that old, am I?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
okay.
when I just sold my agency about a year ago. I grew up in advertising and created a couple agencies. Just sold one after running it for 13 years. Thank God. And thought I'd retire. And that lasted for about a week. So I'm just kind of out there doing my thing, rock and roll being one of them.
Nice.
So today we're going to have a really interesting conversation. So we got the Jesuit Christian Brothers thing going on. Okay, have a little fun with that. This podcast is about marketing a small business. And you got two local geniuses right here that are going to talk about their days in the agency, how they worked with small businesses, the creative process, the strategic process, and then we'll bring it all back home. They brought it back to their passion, which is playing live rock and roll, man. Because that's the ultimate small business, right, guys?
It is
running a rock and roll band. And believe me, it's a business, isn't it?
Emphasis on ultimate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. So I'm going to go back to my right here, to David first, to our days at, we both worked at the Sacramento Bee, one of the major publishing companies in the country, part of the McClatchy Corporation.
That's right.
And David's got some real good history. We go back to the mid-'90s. For you young people out there, you don't know that there was a time the internet did not exist. It was a nothing. It was a concept. But the Sacramento Bee was the major publishing company here in Sacramento, and they launched one of the first media websites in the country. And people didn't know what the hell is a website? What do I do with it? How do I do it? Well, David's job as a creative director for the brand that was the Sacramento Bee was like, I got to help our audience, our readers, go to this new digital world. And what is digital? Don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
And creatively explain to them, hey, you can now get your news on your computer. No phones. Did not exist in phones. It was just on your computer. What do you mean? I don't open up the newspaper anymore. I don't wait till 7 in the morning with my coffee. I turn on my computer and I can read the news here. How the hell does that happen? So Dave, when that assignment was brought to you, did your mind explode? Did you take it as a super challenge, or you just didn't know what the F was going on?
All of the above.
Okay.
Definitely a super challenge. But to pretend that I knew what I was doing at the time, I had no idea. I was tasked with figuring out how to market it, how to monetize it, and what the heck it was. And nobody really knew. It was just this weird thing. There was no search engines. There was surfing the web, or surfing the interweb, or whatever it was at that time, was something that was a very real thing, in that you could log on and in 2 minutes you were lost. You were completely on some other planet. And so navigating the web was a huge issue at that time. Yeah, it was quite the undertaking in terms of figuring that thing out. And everybody wanted to treat it like the old way of doing business, monetizing it and selling ads and things like that. And the new regime hadn't even come in yet of, no, you don't sell anything. You give it away and you build an audience. That was really foreign.
So how did you help to train people to gravitate to it? So they're used to getting their newspaper every day. It's there like clockwork. We had somebody that worked there, remember, used to call it the daily miracle. You have to reproduce your product every day from scratch, get it out to masses. Think of the massive machines and transportation to get it out to the 4-county area and actually all of Northern California. And now the information is there right in front of you. You don't have to leave your seat to create it, to put it out, or to get to your front porch to read it. You sit down in your kitchen, open up your computer, and it was right there. When they turned their computer, one, how did they find what was called sacb.com? Was it a keyboard? How did they do to it? I remember the term mouse was still a rodent. Yeah. Like, what do you mean a mouse? What's a mouse? The mouse is running across my keyboard. Yeah. What the hell is that thing? There's so much, I can't even fathom 30 years later how you're able to conceptualize that and craft it into a piece creatively where people understood it and they actually did start reading the news on it.
Yeah, well, the suggestion is that I knew what I was doing and that I did it correctly. All of the above is not true. I was feeling my way through it the whole time, and I'm sure I made 1,000 mistakes along the way. We had some great ad campaigns, which was really funny because we would advertise it in the old media. And so it's like
newspaper advertising for the internet,
which was great at the time because we got to do full page, color ads, and just go crazy. Double trucks, it was fun in those days. But part of the problem too was that part of the battle, part of what we had to overcome was the conflict inside the business itself. Mm-hmm. You had the old school newspaper world battling with this new digital world, and they're trying to run it as the same company. It was just like two different companies, and the old one didn't want to get along with the new one, and the new one didn't understand the old one. It was difficult.
So it's almost like you worked for the client. You were an employee of the client, but it's like having an external client with two partners.
Yeah.
That one wanted the legacy and one wanted the new way, and they're battling. You're in the middle going, I got to work with these two guys.
Yeah.
I got to balance and make sure I get their message out that it's understandable. So it's really like you were an agency for the agency.
There's no question. Yeah, it was an in-house agency with two clients, actually more than that because McClatchy was also sort of
a parent company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so there was those two clients and they didn't get along, and we're stuck in the middle. And so you know what my answer was? I quit.
I'm done. I fired the client and I fired myself. The story of marketing in the business.
And I started my first ad agency. Yeah. So it worked though.
It worked. Well, I remember because I just started there when that launched. I think I'd been there a week and the big campaign launched. I still remember it to this day. And I have a mouse pad that says point, click, enjoy.
Yeah. And
fabulous.
I'd like to take full credit for that. And I'm embarrassed. Some of my best work Take that for what it's worth. Well,
Was that your slogan though?
it was.
It
yeah,
was.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I
I
like
thought
it.
it was brilliant at the time.
I think it was very brilliant. I go back to nobody knew what a mouse was. So okay, I got this thing with this arrow. I move it all around, and I point at something.
Mhm,
Okay,
and
they
I
told me to
clicked
point.
it. Yeah.
I click it. Oh wow, a news story pops up.
Revolutionary.
I think that's ingenious.
Thank you.
I think that should go in the Hall of Fame at
It's
Jesuit. not
It's probably
Christian
going to go
Brothers.
on my tombstone, more like it.
Yes, we are engraving it as we speak. Kind of a fantastic story. So you heard it, folks, how marketing internally, you work for a company and it's always a client. There's always a battle. There's always that 3 a.m. conflict. You wake up. That's why there's mayhem. Marketing always comes with mayhem, but a successful campaign, me as a listener, forget that I worked there. I still remember that slogan. I think it was
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, that is cool.
Well, and let's do the flip side. So that's the media side from David's perspective as a creative mind. Now, Scott, you've worked on media as sort of a strategic person
Right.
and working with a lot of small businesses.
Right.
And I'm sure you've had a lot of clients the same way. Could be a husband and wife, 2 business partners that were maybe friends. They got around the kitchen table, started talking a business idea, and they opened a business and they realized they were at odds. Or maybe they didn't realize it, but they brought in a third-party agency and they're at odds and they're beating each other up and they're beating you up.
So it's interesting, and David and I were talking about this before we got started, is that these small businesses hire us to help them grow their business, right? And yeah, I'm not a super big brand guy, right? If you own Bobby's Plumbing, there's no brand there,
Yeah.
right? So I don't talk about logos and brand. I talk about you spend money, we make money. That's how you grow your business. And they have this perception in their mind where, you know, their name is everything. And it's a very difficult challenge to convince these small business owners, not even small businesses. I was telling them I have a client currently, a fairly large multi-state feed manufacturer. It took me 2 years to convince him to stop putting the name of his mill on every piece of advertising he did because nobody cared where the feed was made. They just cared what the feed brand was, right?
Yeah.
And they want to think they know everything they know about marketing their business when unfortunately they know everything they know about managing their business and selling their business and executing their business, but very often they know very little about marketing it. And what I found when I was in sales and working with the small business owners that they would get bad advice, right? They got a lot of brand advice, right? You just got to get your name out there. And I would look at them and go, nobody cares what your name is, right? So getting it out there is completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
What we need to do is ask your client to do something and come in and spend money with you. And that's one of the biggest challenges I have on the Mayhem side is convincing these small business owners that, you know, the name of their business is irrelevant to what they do to deliver services to their clients, which is how they make money. And that is our focus. It is always, how do you and I make money for you? Because if you're making money, then you love me, and then our business and our relationship continues. And that's the hard one because they're so in love with themselves and they're so in love with the idea of them that it's hard to convince them to divorce themselves from that perspective and just focus on promoting the service and the product that'll ring their cash register.
So let's take David's situation. If you had a client that had this dichotomy, 2 partners, and one agreed with you, he says, you know what? I agree. The name doesn't matter. The benefit to the prospective customer matters. The other guy says, hey, that's been my family name on this business for 2 generations. It's going nowhere. I brought you in as a partner to make money, and I got to keep the name, and they're battling. Have you come across that, and how'd you deal with it?
It's interesting because I'll go back to the previous client because that's kind of what was happening with this client. And ultimately, although it was like pulling teeth, we would pry his perspective away from that towards the sales side of it, towards the ROI side of the messaging. But to be honest with you, it ultimately ended up with him asking my business partner to just stop asking me to come to meetings.
You're fired.
So he didn't fire the agency, he just fired me, which was fine. And I was totally fine with that. And so, you know, we're now 16 years into managing this client, you know, and my ex-wife is my business partner and she runs that business. And when she comes home from meetings, she blows up my email with her frustrations and I give her my feedback and then she couches it in a language that won't piss them off. And then she takes it back to them and
all good.
And it works out. But yeah, occasionally, you know, you'll run into partnership issues, but primarily in my experience, our clients haven't been like partnerships. And so I haven't run into that particular dynamic, but I run into regularly the dynamic of their own self-importance, of their idea of their company, and helping them understand that that's great. But brand development comes on the backside. As you deliver good customer service, your brand will grow through reputation. But upfront, when you give me money to spend, it has to be totally targeted at generating revenue back into your company. Because brand advertising is great if you're PepsiCo or your Budweiser or your Coors or Chevy. But if you're Bob's Chicken Chins, nobody cares.
Did you say chicken
Well,
shins?
Chicken Chins.
What if you like chicken shins? There's some people out there that do.
Nobody likes chicken shins.
They're fried. They're delicious.
I want to see you market that. Next assignment.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a detour because you mentioned that brand. Ultimately, if you're generational, you're big like a Pepsi, like a Coke. Brand matters to those two especially.
Right.
That's their own holy bull
100%.
in the cola's world.
100%.
The small guy, not as much. But David, I'm going to take a detour and talk about, you're an outdoorsman, I hear. You wrote a book about sailing. Right? Could I see your book here? To our listeners that can actually view this, he wrote a book called Rudder that you see the sailboat on it. And so you sail, right?
I have sailed.
You have.
Yeah. From what I remember.
Whoa. Maybe I should have read the whole cover first. This is a book about strategic brand clarity. Oh, I never feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
I feel embarrassed.
Now you don't need to read any more of it.
Well, I'm done.
Yeah.
So, book called Rudder about brand clarity. Scott's just telling us, hey, for the small guy, does brand matter? Or at the end of the day, it's really, can he sell his prospective customers? David, I'm going to assume that this book is really about brand identity matters.
Correct.
Is that in conflict with what Scott said, or is it just a different take on it?
I think I actually like that, a different take, because I think in our industry, marketing and advertising alone, there's kind of there's different perceptions of what brand is. And I kind of put my stake in the sand, in the dirt, in terms of, and everybody kind of knows this, but everybody forgets. Everybody talks about brand, and everybody means something different.
Right.
And so it's like, if you're talking to a graphic design firm and you say brand, they go, logos, colors, fonts. If you talk to a PR firm, they think, oh, we got you on channel 13 last night or whatever. That's your brand, And so ad agencies, what's the saying? If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
That's so true in our industry.
Absolute facts.
And I, guilty as charged, spent I have probably a 40-something odd year career. And I spent the first half of that, even as an agency owner, building brands. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing.
There seems a pattern here. It seems like every job you've had, you've never know what you're doing. Dude, did you inherit a trust fund or what?
It implies that I know what I'm doing
okay.
now. Yeah. No, so it took me the better part of 20 years to figure out there really is a science behind, other than just being creative or being creative for creative sake. I was good at that, and I fooled a lot of people. And figuring out that there really is a science behind this idea of brand. Well, what the hell is a brand? And you boil it all down to this thing where it's just nothing more than an emotion.
Right.
I.e., I say, Eric, how do you feel? What do you think? It's like, you've got a brand. Whether you like it, whether you intended it or not, you've got a brand. And so the idea behind a strong brand or a strategic brand is, okay, so if I'm going to say the name Eric, or I've got a logo that says Eric, or I've got a website that says Eric, is if you had your choice in the matter, how would you want people to feel? It's like, okay. And then everything you do from that point on supports that. From an emotional standpoint, you define what you say, how you say it, and then in order to evoke a certain emotion, everything you do lines up with that. And I liken it to the rudder on a boat. The rudder on a boat is a really basic tool. But without it, you can put your boat out there and the wind comes along, the water gets rough, and you may want to go from here to there, opposite shore, but it's anybody's guess whether you're going to get there or not. With a rudder, you could actually steer. And so it's a very simple tool. A brand is such a stupidly simple tool, but without it, or without the knowledge of how to use it as a business tool, you're pretty much lost.
Smart. Well, let's hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break and come back to that. We want to talk about the rudder in marketing, the dichotomy here again of brand versus success, how that plays out in the client's head, and we'll have some more fun along the way. Stay tuned, folks. We will be right back with more Size Doesn't Matter.
My name is David Flanagan, and I've been behind the wheel at ad agencies since I was in my very early 20s. Just sold my last ad agency. Through the process of 45 years, I've built brands across the country and learned a thing or two. One of the things that I learned was that I'm getting old. After selling my agency, I tried to retire. And when people found out that I had retired, the door started getting knocked on, the phone started ringing, and I got approached repeatedly to begin doing consulting. And it happened so many times that I thought, well, maybe this part of my life, I'll do consulting with companies inside and helping them build their brand. And in the building of the brand, you just narrowing it down to so many companies, even especially older companies, have no idea who they really are. And so I help companies get clarity in terms of, let's boil it all down and let's find out what we say, how we say it, and we all do it together. And that's when a brand becomes extremely powerful. So go to flaniganspeaks.com. I'm doing workshops, doing seminars, and doing internal consulting, and it's working for me.
Hey, folks, we're back. I'm Erico. Remember, I'm 5'5", $125, because size doesn't matter. And today I might look tall against these two gentlemen.
We're sitting down.
That's your own opinion.
Yeah, they're sitting on the stools. I am literally standing here. But let me tell you, size doesn't matter. It's how big a noise you make. Christian Brothers versus Jesuit. I still got that home field advantage, and I'm taking full control, guys. You will not run me over.
Big Red.
Go Big Red.
Yeah, you know what? Christian Brothers had red in their color, too. We were red and blue. We were multicolored.
Yeah. Black and blue by the end of the game.
Yes.
Maybe.
100%.
That won't happen here today. Because you know why?
Oh, no.
I have a rudder and know where I'm going. So we were just talking about David's book about the rudder, in business. And so we had a nice little dialogue going here about how much does a brand mean? Doesn't mean as much in your logo as maybe your name. Does your name tell you what you do? So David's got this beautiful book called Rudder about brand clarity. And Scott, you've got an agency that I don't know what the hell your name means. CSB Marketing.
So do you want me to tell the story again?
Well, yeah,
or
the first time I saw it, I thought CBS Mark. Oh, he's trying to steal from CBS. And he just changed it. So how did you come up with that name, guy?
So I'll try and Reader's Digest this. We were getting involved in what is ostensibly an ad agency franchise in 2001. Y2 Marketing was what it was called. And we just set up CSB as our incorporated name. And it's Cindy, my ex-wife's name, Scott, my name, and Ben, my son's name, because there was just three of us at the time. So Cindy, Scott, Ben Marketing, that was the corporate name of the company. And after I went through all the training through the end of that year, we went to a big conference in February. And as soon as we got back from that conference, they sent an email out to everybody that said, the company's no longer, thank you for your time, all your contracts are null and void, good luck. And so Y2 Marketing was gone, we couldn't use it. We're stuck with CSB Marketing, and I talked to Cindy about whether we were going to change it, and we kicked it around for about an hour, and then she's like, no, I'm not messing with it, and we just stayed with it, and now 24 years later, it's just who we are. My daughter, Madison, is convinced now that it's CSB Madison Marketing.
You're extending like a law firm. It's got 25 names attached to it, 25 letters.
So that's how we got there. And, it's fine. It works. We're not super worried about it. But we feel every now and then how silly it is. It's like the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl will tell you that if he knew the band was going to hit as big as it did, he would have never named it the Foo Fighters. That is the dumbest name he could possibly come up with. He's embarrassed about it.
But it works, right?
Yeah.
So CSB, as much as you make fun of your own name and whatnot, but quoting what David says,
Right.
it sounds like you have a rudder.
We do.
And you stuck with the name because you go, we know where we're going. We got a
Correct.
rudder and it's driving us there.
Correct. And we made a decision early on that we were not going to chase big California contracts. We're 51% female owned. We had all the boxes ticked to go after some of that business. or any of the the car dealerships and the malls and stuff. And we just decided that that we didn't want to manage that headache. So we decided we were going to focus our efforts on small and emerging businesses, because honestly, that's where my forte was coming out of radio sales, was working what they call local direct. And so I had this very strong skill set of consulting for these small business owners. And that's where we kind of laid our tracks, and it's worked out very well for us. We've had a couple big ones. We had a big bank for many years. That's a good success story. If you want to know about it, I'll tell it later. We've got a big RV dealer. We have a big master retail firm that's our client. But that's about as big as we've gotten. And we're happy with that. We like working with people that like working with us. And sometimes when you get into those big organizations, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you not only have these as clients, you actually help other small businesses. You do some training, if I understand.
I do. I started a training course for the Better Business Bureau in 2016 when I was at my last radio gig, because our market president was on the board. And so at the time I called it the Science of Marketing for Small Business. And it really just incorporated what I'd learned in setting up my business with Y2 Marketing on the science side of how to write good content, how to recognize what good copywriting looks like, the science of pinging the person's reticular activator, making sure you're engaging them in the ad when it
you used a big word right there.
I did. Reticular activator. It's Google it. It's a real thing, man. It's the radar in your brain that never turns off. It starts before you're born.
I have a big one. I have a really big one
at night.
And it's what wakes you up in the middle of the night when you hear your dog walk across the hardwood. It's really looking for something out of place or something super familiar. Those are really the only two things it's seeking. And so
story of my life.
Our idea is to ping that radar so that you go from autopilot, you live in an autopilot, and you engage in the ad that you're seeing or hearing. And that science is lost on a small business owner. They have no concept of it. So when they get a piece of copy from a newspaper rep or from a radio rep, they don't know if it's good or not. And so what I did is I created this seminar that explained all the different media mixes that they had to engage with, and then taught them how to recognize, what a good ad should look like.
So when you do that, have you picked up clients and they took your seminar and they wanted to come aboard as a client? Do you give them that homework back? Like, you know what? I'm not doing all the work for you. You're the business owner. I want you to spend some time thinking about what we did in that seminar and come back with something.
So a little bit. One of the things we do when we're onboarding a client is we ask them to give us what they perceive good advertising looks like for promoting their business. What do they think their messaging looks like and sounds like? And invariably, it's very me focused. And so we have to teach them that me focused marketing is a terrible idea for a business owner. It has to be they focused.
Focus group of one always wins out, right?
Yeah. And so we would give them, write some headlines, write some copy, give me copies of some of the ads you've done in the past. When you did that penny saver, what's it look like? Do you still I got it, send it to me. And then we sit down as a group and we go through, we analyze it against basically what I teach in that seminar. And so, a little bit of that. Yeah. When you're talking with these small business owners, there's no media department, there's no ad vice president, it's Bob and Jane and their business. And so it takes a different kind of approach to help them understand what we're trying to accomplish in the growth of their business.
Smart, very smart thinking to go with that. Now, David, you had agencies probably a little bit larger maybe back in the day.
Significantly.
A little bit larger. So let's say you're going to take a new client on. I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment if you don't mind.
Yes.
So I'm an entrepreneur, right? Because this is Entrepreneurial Marketing and Mayhem, and I'm your Mayhem client. I'm a runner, and I got this idea. I want some fast running shoes. I got my concepts laid out. I'm also kind of a creative dude. I've got that testicular thing
I'll
going on.
get back to you on that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Testicular.
Testicular. I definitely got that going on. So at 3 a.m, I'm in that mode, whatever it may be, and I'm thinking about these running shoes, and I go, I don't just want running shoes. I want them to be about me. If I'm running down, in the marathon, I want my shoes to style. So I'm going to call it Express, because there are some very fast shoes, but I want to be able to express myself with the palette. I want to be able to create what those shoes look like. Converse, Nike, everything else, they all look the same.
Yeah.
Now I want the shoes to look like me when I'm running by fast.
Okay.
So I'm going to start Express running shoes.
Yeah.
You want to make a pitch for my business. How do you gather your team? And based on what Scott said, you got to kind of go back to basics and sit the guy down and kind of help him organize his thoughts and get him on board. You got a creative team said, okay, guys, we got this client that's a little bit of a wily coyote here. Might have to rein him in, but maybe he's got a cool idea. How do we market to that?
Yeah, I think it's actually maybe simpler than it might sound, in that you go to him and you say, running shoes, huh? Okay. Boy, that's not a very competitive market.
No.
You know, that's
3 in the
easy.
morning, testicular stuff
Yeah,
going
there's
on.
no-
That's what I'm
There's
thinking
nobody
about.
in that vertical at all.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
Really easy. You just put a picture of a shoe and go, shoes for sale. You'll do just fine. No, you approach it from the perspective, strategic of okay, running shoes, shoes in general, running shoes, very competitive. How in the world are you going to stand apart? And so the whole world, the word of differentiation comes up. And it's like, if you can start talking about differentiation out of the gate, a potential client or an owner of a shoe company will go, yes, I've heard of that word. Talk to me more. You know, it's like, in order to survive, much less succeed, you've got to differentiate. It's like, well, how do you do that? And so the idea of, well, what you don't do in the shoe category is sell shoes from a brand perspective, an emotional perspective. You sell shoes, you're going to blend in with a sea of 1,000 sharks and you're going to get eaten alive. So the idea of, back to that emotion thing, and you mentioned, you know, I got something different here. I want to create something very special and unique. And it's like, what'd you say? Create? It's like, okay, so what your shoe really provides me, it's not about you, it's about me. What your shoe really provides me as a outside of a shoe itself is the ability to create. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. And I take that little nugget, feed it back to the potential client, and they go, yeah, that's exactly it. How did you know that? It's like, you just told me, you know? And so that becomes then a potential differentiator and a potential foundation for communication, whether it's a website, whether it's a print ad, whether it's a TV, radio commercial. That becomes the nugget. And I always put it in the category, okay, that being said, now what business are you really in? Are you in the shoe business, or are you in the business of allowing me to create, design my own shoes?
Self-expression.
And now I can blow Nike out of the water. You know, now I can compete against Puma. Now I can compete against all, because I'm not selling shoes anymore.
Right.
I'm selling the ability to create my own personal whatever. Just happens to be on my feet.
So we had a guy in the seminar, and he's a custom home builder, and he was frustrated, and I you know, we did a little Q&A after the seminar was over. We're just chit chatting, and he was sharing his frustrations, and I said, so, you know, what is your positioning? What do you tell people
Right.
in your advertising? And his go-to
You
was
say,
the
what's
standard,
positioning?
family owned, in business for 50 years.
Yada, yada.
And
50
I'm like,
million
Never
other
heard
guys.
that
I go,
before.
nobody cares. So I asked him, I go, why do people build custom homes? And he hemmed and hawed. I go, think about it. You go through the hassle of building your own home, because it's not easy. Why do people do that? And he says, more often than not, they've always dreamed of having the home they build themselves.
Boing.
And I went, so you don't build homes, you build people's dreams. And he went,
So
it was it. That was it. You know, we didn't.
He had a reticular testicular
Yeah,
reaction.
Testicular reaction, exactly.
Fathom during the middle
So
of the
that
night.
goes exactly
Yeah.
to what you're talking about, is understanding, because all of advertising is tied to emotion. It's all tied to hot button
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
The pain and the pleasure. You know, we don't like the pain issue as much as we like the pleasure
That's
issue.
exactly right.
You know, but everything you do in marketing is tied to pushing people's hot buttons, because that's what gets them engaged in the messaging.
Yeah.
Right. And then we have to make the final leap as a small business owner of, now that I've engaged with you, please do something for me.
And
Click this,
I've
call
often
this,
been
come here.
accused of, well, isn't that manipulation? And it's like, whoa, hold on. That's not manipulation. That's just sales.
Correct.
That's just me. It's not manipulation. It's persuasion. It's me saying, have you ever thought about it this way? And there's a big difference between manipulation and persuasion. Persuasion, that's just good old-fashioned sales.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
and every business owner, isn't that why they're in business?
Every business. Yeah.
Yes.
And if
Unless
they're
you're
not,
naturally rich and you got
Yeah.
$1 billion, you can do what you
Unless
want.
the
lose
business
money.
is a lost leader for your taxes.
Yeah. Then okay. Then that's manipulation.
Or you're laundering money for your drug kingdom. I don't know what other reason you would do it.
But, you know, how many clients out there are in that same boat? You both have experienced clients of big, medium, small, all across the board. How do you get through to them?
All of them are in that boat. 100% of them are in that boat.
And some just refuse to. At the end of the day, you're not going to win the battle of getting them to listen.
No, and our first big win as a company happened super early on. I was walking into, and I'll keep the names out of it, I was walking into a local business bank that I used to have as a radio client way back in the day. And I was just going to open up our company bank account there. That's all I was doing. And the president of the company, who was my client, came out and saw me sitting there, and what are you up to? And I told him, and he's like, come into my office when you're done. So I went into his office when I was done, and he was bemoaning the fact that his internal marketing people had just taken county and state jobs and they were leaving, and he didn't know what to do. So we started talking, and it turned into this 2-hour conversation. And at one point he told me that behind me on the shelf were these binders labeled 96, 97 years, right? And every one of those binders was every ad he ran for 10 years. So I started pulling the binders off and flipping through them. And I'm like, they're all college bank accounts, student home savings accounts. I said, do you get customers in your bank? Because every time I come in, you shoot a can and not hit a customer. He's like, no. I go, then why are you doing retail banking, dude? And his answer was, we just got to get our name out there. And I'm like, looking at these binders, I go, how much do you spend a year? And he said $300,000. So I'm looking at like $30 million that he has spent. And he can't identify a single ad in any of these binders that generated a result. And I said, so your bullhorn is this big compared to Mechanics Bank and B of A, right? Your bullhorn was not big enough for you to just get your name out there. And so we asked, besides the business banking, which you have salespeople going and doing for you, how do you make money? What's your big profit centers? And he said, we're really good at custom home lending, and we're really good at church funding because it's a Christian organization. And so I drilled down on that, and we took 100% of their advertising. We poured 70% of it into custom home lending and 30% into church funding. And 18 months later, their portfolio blew up, and a bigger bank out of Oregon came down, bought them out, retired them, and they were gone.
And fired you.
Well, no, they kept us for a year. Then they tried to get me to move to Medford, Oregon. But yeah, so that's a big win for us because their loan, especially their custom home lending loan portfolio, blew up, absolutely blew up, and to a point that it was a gigantic win for them. So that was fun.
And that's a hell of a success story for you.
Yeah.
You listened. It's easy.
And
to
for them though. And for them.
Yeah.
Because they were now spending money that was making real money and not just pouring it down the drain, which is what they've been doing.
But you listened, and because you listened, you were able to turn the corner and got them to listen.
Right.
Realize that you've been going down this path all along. I don't care how many years of binders you got, it's not working.
Right.
But you heard something, you spun it back, their ears picked up, they listened, bam, success.
And there was pushback. He was like, well, we've got 37 branches in 2 states. We're big. I go, yes, you're not that big. And that statement kind of hurt his feelings a little bit, and it took a little bit of fence mending, as they say. Yeah. But sooner or later, after about 3 meetings, the truth of it started to dawn on him, and then the idea of what we're trying to get him to think about started to dawn on him, to a point where he was like, "Good, let's try this." And then we knew we won when the president of the bank, the owner of the bank, walked in and slammed the ComSox magazine down on his desk and said, "Why doesn't our ad look like that?" And he went, "That is our ad."
Oh, that's good. That's
nice.
So more testicular.
More testicular.
So we took that out and we framed it. We gave it to him for Christmas.
Fantastic. Even better. That is great. That is great. Well, it's a good success story. David, do you have a success story like that, or do you have a nightmare story?
What did you say?
Sounded like sex story to me.
And I have lots of
those. We're going with this podcast.
I talk fast.
He is a rock and roller.
Size doesn't matter. You know what? Because you guys are now, you're ganging up on me. You're putting 18 men on the field instead of 9 or whatever football's got. So you know what? I was going to call end the game, but we're having such a good time.
That is spoken like a true Christian brother right there.
Well, you're hurting my feelings.
18, 19, whatever it takes.
So I thought we were into the game, but you know what? We were having too much fun on this field. I think we called this halftime, don't you guys?
All right.
Halftime.
We come back for second half and really have some good fun.
Cool.
Some amazing stories, and we're going to actually put a little spin on music into this as well.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
I figured you guys would like that. Okay, guys, size doesn't matter. Entrepreneurial marketing and mayhem, and there's a lot of mayhem going on in the Roc Sol studios today. And we're going to come back for another episode, bring these 2 guys back, continue the second half of the Holy Bowl, get some winning. I am Erico. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Erico, your host of Size Doesn't Matter podcast. Did you know our original episode aired 1 week earlier than tonight's? podcast? Listen to us on Apple, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. This is 5'5", $1.25 signing off to you. Welcome back, our friends. Size doesn't matter. We got David Flanagan, Scott Hamilton, a former and a current marketing agency owner.
A minute later, my phone rings, and I look down, and it's my account manager. And she goes, "I can read your screen." I was like, "Oh, crap."
This is a long episode, bro. I know I'm the smallest guy in the room. I'm 5'5", $1.25. I could take both of these gentlemen down.
It was a large statewide contract. So large, in fact, that it took 4 different agencies to manage this account. We were the lead agency, Misfit, my agency. 3 different agencies handled different aspects of this large account.
Look, they did fireworks for us.
It's on the big screen, our name's on the big screen, Dunsmore Road. The fireworks are going pow, 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 pow. It's like, these guys look like $1 million.
That's so awesome.
Own that word
Right.
Beatles in such an emotional way that it evokes the Beatles.
We deliver 3 solid hours of music. We give you a 35-song show, which is a lot of songs. And then I tell them we take 1 break. So we don't break twice. Second break kills the show.